The whole world saw President Bush avoid being hit with shoes in Iraq. They didn't see Dana Perino, though, get hit by a steel microphone. Washington's biggest irony was that she left the room crying and with a black eye. That wasn't the strangest thing that came up in her life, though. Her husband went to jail for their dog, and her pet became more well-known than the person who used to be White House press secretary. People who really liked Dana would be shocked to learn about her secret problems. She stood outside the White House while on a family trip when she was only 6 years old and made a big promise. They were told she would work there one day. This wasn't just a dream from childhood. She really meant it. The two of them will never forget that moment. Dana Perino kept her word after more than 25 years. She worked somewhere other than the White House. She was the first Republican woman to work as White House press secretary, making her the 26th person to hold that job. Even though the chances were against a girl from rural Wyoming with no political ties, Dana was more determined than anyone else. Dana was born in Evanston, Wyoming, on May 9, 1972. At that time, there were just over 10,000 people living in the town. She went to Parker, Colorado with her family when she was 2 years old. They were looking for better chances to make money. The town of Parker was calm and middle class. After that, Dana learned the importance of working hard and not giving up. The roots of her family were a mix of tough American energy and Italian tradition. Her great-grandparents came to the United States from Italy. They brought with them a strong sense of community. Dana's past made her who she is today. She learned to be independent, loyal, and kind through it. These were traits that later helped her in tough political situations. The ranch her grandpa owned in Newcastle, Wyoming, was where Dana spent every summer. The ranch wasn't a vacation. Dana woke up at 4 a.m. to help move the cattle. It was cold, hard, and uncertain work, but she learned something very important from it. Ranchers had to have hope. It wasn't just a good idea, it was how they lived. It was those early morning lessons that stuck with Dana. She learned how to deal with problems that come up, to keep a good attitude and never give up, even when things went badly. The same things that made her look good in the press meeting room years later helped her stand tall. Before she ran for office, Dana was a dancer. She worked out every day for hours. Players had to be disciplined, balanced, and able to stay calm under pressure. While everyone watched, she had to do a great job. This kind of practice could not be found in a book. Gymnastics helped her stay focused and boost her confidence, which helped her in high-stakes situations at the White House. She kept her cool when she had to answer tough questions or deal with national problems. Dana found her love for talking to people at Ponderosa High School in Parker. It was fun for her to join discussion groups and compete in them. She learned how to argue, talk clearly, and get people to agree with her. Her teachers saw how talented she was and told her to aim high. After high school, Dana already knew she wanted to work in the media and government. Because she made that choice, she would one day stand on that White House stage. Dana managed a busy routine while she was in college. She worked until 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. work as a DJ for country music on KCCY-FM 96.9 in Colorado Springs. She kept the station running during the late-night hours when most of the students were sleeping. She had to stay alert, take orders for songs, and keep the radio waves going. She often went straight to class or debate practice after her shift was over. She also had to play A Hey Breaky Heart by Billy Ray Cyrus at the beginning of every hour. That meant 12 times during each shift, or more than 48 times a week during her 4-hour shift. It was hard, but it made her more patient and tough. In 1994, Dana got her degree from Colorado State University, Pueblo. In college, she got a degree in mass relations, as well as Spanish and political science as majors. On the debate team, she also stood out. She fought all over the country and learned how to speak and think quickly. These skills helped her get where she wanted to go in life. Dana took on big tasks even when she was in school. She was the host of KTSC TV's Capital Journal, which talked about politics in Colorado. She made the show Standoff, which dealt with controversial topics in public life. The work wasn't easy. They needed people to be able to think clearly, make quick choices, and keep their cool. It was there that she learned how to deal with technical issues, difficult guests, and live shows, which is exactly the kind of stress she would later face in Washington, D.C. Dana didn't slow down after college. At the University of Illinois, Springfield, she worked toward a master's degree in public affairs reporting. She also worked as a reporter at WCIA-TV, where she covered the Illinois Capitol. She went after lawmakers, wrote about complicated topics, and always met her tight deadlines. It was a tough job, but it taught her a lot about politics and the media. When Dana Perino first got into politics, she didn't have a lot of power or fame. She got a job as a staff assistant for Congressman Scott McInnes in Washington, D.C. in the middle of the 1990s. It wasn't an exciting job. Dana worked all day, taking calls, arranging mail, and setting up meetings. She learned right away how hard it could be to be a politician. People could lose their job for even small mistakes. The pay wasn't great, and the hours were long, often 12 hours a day. Dana quickly learned, though, most important were loyalty and caution. One wrong word could ruin a campaign or end a career. She learned how to get by in a world where office politics and big egos were the norm during these early years. She also saw how bills were made. There were deals made. Most students of political science could only dream of getting to learn about things like that in the real world. It changed the way she thinks about politics for the rest of her life. After her time with McInnes was over, Dana moved on to bigger and better things. She became the press secretary for Congressman Dan Schaefer, who was in charge of the Energy and Power Subcommittee in the House of Representatives. It wasn't just another job. Some of the most controversial problems of the time were looked at by Schaefer's committee: the energy strategy, deregulation, and the environment. Dana had to deal with comments that could change markets or public opinion all of a sudden. She had to make sure that everyone could understand things like nuclear safety and clean energy. Time varies by minutes. When it came to energy strategy, the late 1990s were a rough time. California had power outages. People had strong opinions about the Kyoto Protocol. Dana was in the middle of everything. It was her job to help Schaefer get ready for tough trials and live TV. She had to work hard and think quickly on the job. She learned how to say the right thing at the right time very well. In 1998, everything was different. Schaefer said he was leaving his job, and Dana had to make a very important decision. Since her boss was leaving, she didn't know what to do next in Washington, D.C. Then she shocked everyone. She left the country when she was only 26 years old. She went to England so she could marry Peter McMahon, a guy she met on the plane. No one thought this would happen. She quit a job that was going well so she could focus on her personal life. It was a brave move. At that time, not many young women in politics were brave enough to quit. The year she spent in the UK taught her about balance and made her more aware of events around the world. For some reason, she felt better when she got back. Soon, she was back working for the government, first at the Justice Department and then at the White House. When she was having doubts, she made a choice that changed her future in ways she could never have thought. Dana Perino got on a plane from Denver to Chicago on August 17, 1997. She was 25 years old and working hard to get into politics. Everything changed that day. She was very excited about her new job on Capitol Hill, but fate had other ideas. The last two people to get on were Dana and a British investor named Peter McMahon, who was 43 years old. There were only 13A and 13C places left. They sat next to each other in the end. Dana was from the United States. Peter was from the UK. They were 18 years apart in age. It wasn't likely that they would meet, but they did, and it changed their lives always. Peter's British accent stood out right away to Dana. She saw that he didn't have a wedding band on. That interested her. He had been married 3 times. He lived in Britain. Dana was early in her work and still young. There was a big age difference. People talked about it. Dana couldn't ignore how she felt, though. She was drawn to him. She even said a prayer to see if this person was really the one for her. He lives in England, is 18 years older than her, and has been married twice. What's wrong with this? But Peter's stories were interesting to her. He talked about his job, his time in the Royal Air Force as a child, and all the places he had been. He liked how exciting his life was. Not the same. They talked the whole 2.5-hour flight. They seemed to have known each other for a long time. They talked about their hope and fears, as well as their political views. It shocked both of them when they let down their guard around each other. As soon as the plane touched down, they knew something special had started. When their families found out about the link, they were shocked. For 10 days, Peter didn't talk to Dana. She thought he wasn't interested at first, but when he emailed, the spark came back. They started dating while living far apart. It was hard. In a different country and time zone, they were not together. They made it work, though. They got married in 1998, only 11 months after they met for the first time. They didn't tell their family or friends. They didn't ask any friends. They ran away in England. 2 people you don't know were witnesses. The wedding was calm and proper. Dana quit her job in Washington, D.C. For love, she did something very dangerous. People were shocked. The difference in age. Peter's 2 previous marriages are a secret. It all happened so quickly. It was one of the hardest things Dana had ever done, but she said it was the best choice she had ever made. To start over in a new country, she gave up everything she had worked for. Dana stopped being involved in politics after the wedding. The first place she lived was England. The next was San Diego. She began again in San Diego. For 3 years, she worked in high-tech public relations. The Porter Novelli Convergence Group was one of her jobs. It was a time of growth. She picked up new skills. She was given new tasks to do. They made a new life together. She became stronger because of it. Something changed for Dana Perino on September 11, 2001. A lot of people in the U.S. were shocked when the planes hit the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. But for her, it was worse than scary. It was a request to do something. Outside of Washington, D.C., she was living, at the time. But by November 2001, she was back and playing an important part. She was hired by the Department of Justice to speak for them. It wasn't just a job. Because of this, she was right in the middle of how America responded to the deadliest attack on its land. Everyone in the country was scared. Things that the government chose would change the course of events. Dana was also there. Help the public understand those choices. The reason she moved from Colorado to Washington wasn't to advance her job. It was my job. She felt like she had to help, just like a lot of Americans. But in that dangerous time, not many people would get so close to the real power. Dana had 2 of the worst years of her life, from 2001 to 2003. At the time she worked at the DOJ, the war on terror had just started and was at its peak. It wasn't just her job to give information. She had to deal with her fear, anger, and confusion. It was a big choice for the DOJ. Bush signed a military order in November 2001 that let the government hold foreigners accused of terrorism without a trial. This shocked even lawyers with a lot of experience. Dana had to tell the press and the public about these moves. She thought about every word she spoke. There was always friction in the DOJ press office. Dana stayed cool, even though one wrong word could have caused a lot of trouble. She became known for being able to stay focused during even the worst situations. Having to deal with the media after the USA Patriot Act became law was one of her hardest jobs. That took place quickly. It was first brought up in Congress on October 23, 2001, and President Bush signed it on October 26, 2001. It was only one senator who voted against it. It gave the government a lot of new power. It was able to listen in on emails, bank records, and phone talks. It could keep an eye on people thought to be terrorists with little government oversight. In many ways, the act was kept hidden, which made people worry about what it would mean for their privacy. That made things even tougher for Dana. It was hard for her to answer the tough questions without giving away too much. At the same time, she was in charge of the military courts and Guantanamo Bay storm. These rules weren't just thoughts on paper. They changed lives. They caused a lot of disagreement. But Dana was able to talk for the DOJ without making people more scared. The message was kept clear and on point by her control. In 2003, Dana Perino started her trip to the White House. In that year, she started working for the Council on Environmental Quality as an Associate Director of Communications. America was in a bad mood at the time. Many people had strong opinions about environmental laws. Everyone was thinking about things like climate change, getting our own energy, and how to use public space. A lot of people at home and abroad didn't like how the Bush government treated the environment. Dana was right in the middle of everything because of her job. She was in charge of the body's communication, in order to make sure that federal acts didn't hurt the environment. To do this, they had to deal with problems like digging for oil in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, and turning down the Kyoto Protocol. Even reporters did their jobs while she was around. She didn't think twice about calling editors if she saw something wrong or hurtful. Dana was right in the middle of it all with a lot at stake. She didn't just say the same things over and over. Dana made them. As the debate over climate change heated up, she helped the government come up with a message, explained that the U.S. pulled out of the Kyoto Protocol by saying that it would hurt the economy. But she also had to deal with the growing fear of global change. She helped make the 20 in 10 plan happen in 2007. It was planned to cut gasoline use by 20% in 10 years by promoting other fuels and making cars use less gas. Each and every word was important. Dana also made sure it was clear what she meant. That wasn't the end of her reach. Soon, all government agencies that dealt with energy, the environment, or natural resources worked together with her. When big news was coming out, they checked in with Dana. She went over their plans, made sure their messages were in sync, and made sure everything stayed the same. So many people were affected by her that even outdoor magazines tried to stay away from her office. She wasn't just in charge of messaging, they were going across the government with her help. On March 31, 2006, everything changed all over again. Dana was made Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy Press Secretary by President Bush. It wasn't just a prize. That showed how much trust she had gained. Now she was in front of the press and had to answer their toughest questions about things like storm preparedness and energy prices. The news was full of stories about climate change, and Congress was debating new rules. But Dana stayed cool, worked hard, and got ready. After a little more than a year, she made history. Dana Perino was named the 26th White House Press Secretary on September 14, 2007. It was only the second time a woman had held the job. Her path wasn't the norm. Evanston, Wyoming was her hometown. She was born in 1972. She started out in local news and covered the Illinois Capitol before becoming the person in charge of communicating with the president. President Bush told her she did a great job of making hard problems easy for people to understand. This was a big moment for her. There had only been one woman among the 24 male press secretaries before that. Dana took the job, though, during one of the worst times for a press secretary. It had been 7 years since the start of the Iraq War. By 2007, there was very little support for it left. It was rough with the press. They wanted to know about war plans, deaths, and troop surges. Around the same time, the first signs of the 2008 financial crisis showed that big banks were failing. There was more stress on Dana. It wasn't just her job to repeat what the government said. She had to defend decisions that were hard and often not popular. The press was rough on her. They were doubtful and sometimes mean. Dana herself said it was annoying that she couldn't give reporters the answers they wanted. She didn't lose her cool, though. She also let off steam behind the platform where no one could see her, in small, cheeky ways, like giving a reporter the finger without them knowing. She wrote about this in her book later on. The world saw something on December 14, 2008, that no one will ever forget. During his last trip to Iraq as president, President George W. Bush was there for one last time and doing a press statement. Out of the blue, an Iraqi reporter called Muntadar al-Zaidi shows up. Got up. He threw all of his shoes at President Bush, one after the other. He yelled, "This is a goodbye kiss from the Iraqi people, you dog," as he threw the first shoe. This shoe was next. It said, "This is for the widows, orphans, and all those who died in Iraq." One of the worst insults in the Arab world is to throw a shoe at someone. It wasn't just an attack. It was a strong message of disagreement. Bush was able to avoid both shoes. They just missed him by a few inches. The scene was shown live on TV, and everyone in the world watched. The video went viral and caused heated arguments about the Iraq War. Someone grabbed al-Zaidi, kicked him, and pulled him away. He was sentenced to 1 year in jail but got out early. The shoes became well known after 9 months. They were copied and put in museums. Others were moved to react in the same way by the act. What else did most people not see right away happen in the middle of all this chaos? The White House press secretary, Dana Perino, was near the front of the room. One of the Secret Service agents who rushed in to protect Bush knocked over a steel boom microphone stand. It turned and hit Perino in the right eye hard. The pain came on quickly and was very sharp. Afterward, everyone saw that she had a black eye and swelling. Perino had to cry and leave the room. Bush asked the doctor to check on her because she saw that she was hurt. Even though she was hurt, Perino didn't give up. She stayed with the group, did her job, and even talked about what had happened when asked. People thought it was funny that the Bush team now had a real black eye after all the bad press they got over the Iraq War. He didn't slow down, even though he was hurt. She knew when all of the president's meetings and events were and went to all of them. Her black eye stood out when she got back to Washington, D.C. It was quickly picked up by reporters and photographers. Perino made fun of her wound by calling it her Baghdad shiner. People thought she was strong even though she joked about it and tried to move on. She showed me how to be strong even when things go wrong. Everyone was warned that working in politics, especially in dangerous places like Iraq, can be dangerous in ways you might not expect. A lot of people were surprised by how the official record of the day dealt with it. The chaos and crowd interruption were called those things in the White House transcript. The shoes were left out. Yelling, or the fight that followed. Bush also tried to play it down. He joked, "If you want the truth, he threw a size 10 shoe." But people knew it wasn't true. The truth was remembered by the people and the media. People saw that day as a sign of the problems and issues Bush faced while in office. Perino had a black eye when he got back to Washington, D.C. Photos of her with a bruise under her eyes went viral very quickly. People saw it as a sign of the tough last few months of Bush's presidency. Commentators pointed out that the administration now had a real black eye after years of criticism about Iraq. Perino herself talked about it in interviews. She stayed positive about the whole thing. People felt sorry for her and praised her for staying calm and steady. After leaving the White House in January 2009, Perino did something even more impressive. She became a political analyst for Fox News in just a few months. In 2011, she started hosting a new show called The Five. The show was meant to fill in for Glenn Beck when he left, but it did really well. Over 2.5 million people watched it every day. The show did well because Perino was funny and smart at the same time. By 2021, she was also making America's newsroom with another person, making herself one of Fox's big stars. In 2009, Dana Perino had a lot on her plate. As the press secretary for the White House, she got a lot of calls from young women who wanted to know what to do. Too many coffee talks were taking up too much time. That's when she, Dee Martin, and Jamie Zubak came up with a new idea. The name for it was Minute Mentoring. It was a simple but great plan. Speed dating to find a guide. Woman leaders met with other women leaders in short 10-minute rounds instead of long, drawn-out meetings. Going to Washington, D.C. for the first event. Had 15 teachers and 45 mentees that year. It went over well. This idea quickly spread across the country, making it easier for thousands of women to meet with business, political, and legal leaders. One evening could give you more advice than months of meetings with other people. Then came the awards, and other fields started to copy the structure. It was now clear that Perino had changed the way coaching works. At the same time, Jasper, Dana's Hungarian Wisla, slowly became famous. At first, Dana only posted pictures of him on social media to connect with her fans in a fun way. But quickly, Jasper became better known than Dana. In Central Park, people would stop her to say hello, but not to the former press secretary. They would do it to meet Jasper, or take a picture. He became the dog of America. His trips, like to the beach and on motorcycles with sidecars, had fans all over the world. Let Me Tell You About Jasper was the name of the book Dana wrote about him in 2016. People were very upset when 9-year-old Jasper died of cancer on September 4th, 2021. Thousands of people sent words of support. A lot of people saw Dana's memorial. Fans still remember him every year. When her next Wisla, Percy, came along, he was also loved right away. Not all of the family stories were sweet. Dana's husband, Peter McMahon, went to jail one day. It began with a little thing. He had taken Henry, their Wisla, for a walk in Washington, D.C. without a leash. He was given a ticket, but he forgot to pay it. He missed court because of that small mistake. Then there was a bench warrant. Peter was in jail for a day before they knew it. Fans shared their thoughts on the strange story over and over again. Shared it in a funny way to show how simple things can get out of hand quickly. The story also made people talk about leash rules and what pet owners should do. But life also gave me bigger problems to solve. People have seen that Dana's personal life has been tough lately. Reports began to come out that Peter McMahon was having health issues. Dana kept most of the facts secret, but she did say that balancing her work had been hard. Being a guardian put her to the test. Fans liked how she devoted herself to both her family and her job. People talked more about the emotional problems of caregiving, mental health, and the pressures that public figures are under after hearing her story. Dana's work life never stopped, though. She co-hosts 2 of Fox News' best shows, America's Newsroom and The Five. A lot of the time, The Five gets more viewers than even evening shows. She started the podcast Perino on Politics in 2023, which made her already busy schedule even fuller. She also kept minute coaching going strong at the same time. She found time to talk about what she had learned about being a leader and being strong at colleges, conferences, and business events. She was known not only as a political analyst, but also as a strong woman who never gave up.